Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Chakra Care for the Creative Soul, a place where we support you to care as much for yourself as you care for the world while you're birthing your dreams into being. And here today, special guest Sonja Evans is back in the studio. Sonja, I'm so excited and so happy that you're here because I love our conversations, and we've got a juicy, good conversation for all of you today. Today, we're going to be looking at nourishing the divine feminine to midwife new timelines. And this is such an important topic for this month. But before we get into that, I just want to take a moment for those of you who are joining the show for the very first time and haven't yet had the honor and blessing of having met Sonja Evans. She is a multidimensional seer who has been on the ascension path since 1999, and she's actively serving as a healer and oracle, and she's been doing that since 2013. Sonja uses her natural intuitive gifts, astrology, tarotstrology, and tapping into the quantum fields to support earth angels, starseeds, and lightworkers in releasing consciousness and light body distortions to embody more of their higher codes. Her healing niches include, but are not limited to, healing trauma fields, light body repair, childhood traumas, mapping and collapsing dark systems and spiritual warfare, and healing gender splitting that manifests as relationship distortions. She also trains light workers to tap into their own spiritual genius and activate their mission codes. Her work can be found at earthangelacademy144.org. And I'm your host, Pollyanna Blanco, and I love to highlight the people who are such a blessing to have in the studio. If you haven't met me yet, I am a creative midwife, a quantum energy healer, a chakra dance facilitator, and I'm here to serve busy light workers like yourself to slow down and to reconnect with and remember who you truly are by restoring the sacred to your self-care. So on that note today, super excited to have you here, Sonja.
Well, thanks so much for having me back, Polly. And I feel like the timing is perfect as we traverse Cancer and as we have a lot of lunar activity with 2 full moons in a short period of time. So, and even the conversation we were having yesterday, it feels like there's so much coming online for the feminine. So I feel like this is just such an amazing time, especially a couple of weeks before Lionsgate too. So there's a whole lot going on.
Definitely, definitely. And I'm so glad you mentioned all of those sort of planetary alignments and events happening because I don't know, but it feels I've been noticing it that July has just felt like so rich with activity and so much going on. And I feel like this month, restoring the sacred to your self-care is so key, especially and in particular for the divine feminine.
Yeah.
Because, and we were talking about this yesterday, and we are like, hey, let's continue the conversation here in front of everyone today.
Mm-hmm.
Things that I've been noticing and experiencing, and that my female friends and clients have been experiencing, that even if we felt that we've been connected to our sacred feminine and divine feminine, we're being offered a beautiful invitation, an activation really, to take that to a whole new level of expansion and embodiment.
Mm-hmm.
And so what are your thoughts on that right now in terms of where the feminine collective is at right now this month, and how do you see the sacred invitation sort of unfolding from the people you've been working with
Mm-hmm.
and your own experience?
Well, thank you. That's a lot of questions here, opening up a lot. And I think the first place to maybe start going into it is just kind of mapping this out with the astrology and the alchemy of Cancer. And I love how you worded it, that it's an invitation, because it brings to mind the Four of Cups in the Minor Arcana, if you're familiar with that card, where there's a cloud holding out this cup. It's almost like an invitation to fill our cups up. And so, we're going through this solar transit in Cancer, and anytime we have the sun in any sign, regardless of our our birth signs, it brings in a certain alchemy that makes things possible to and for us. And so as it's going through Cancer, it's dissolving, and it's dissolving all of those things out from the fields, from our consciousness, even from our lives. It is keeping us from seeing that cup. When I think of the cup energy that goes along with the seed in Cancer, it's all cups. And the cup is an instrument of receptivity. So I do feel that there is a shift that's happening in our emotional resonance. Cancer is ruled by the moon that kind of shifts the light body, and it affects our the way our personal magnetism. And with this, we're being given collectively this opportunity to kind of shift our set points around receiving and being that cup and being that chalice, that sacred womb that the divine can fill in, that we can birth those creations. And that's where the midwifery, that all of that kind of comes into play. We start birthing our creations as we start moving into Leo season. And one thing that the divine has really been laying on my heart, and I've been seeing this in my own personal life, is that basically how this is playing out as far as our spiritual journey and our, our path, is it is creating a lot of feedback loops in our lives around, you know, what we have been able to receive, what we have been able to allow into our lives as far as nourishing us and putting ourselves first. We're also having a lot going on with the lunar nodes, which are being played upon very strongly with the moon, the lunar energy right now, where we're kind of coming out of these karmic energies and into that north node, which is in Aries, which is all about the self. And for so many of us, we're so used to our cups being filled and then pouring them out into all of these different containers that it's almost like, we're leaking out a lot of the energy that we need to contain to kind of catalyze this quantum shift that we're all we're going through, we're all feeling it. It started around the time of the eclipse, and then the aurora borealis was bringing in a lot of these, especially Sophianic codes, because just based on some of my clairvoyant vision, that the aurora borealis is very connected into the Sophianic essence, specifically Sophianic dragon lines that bring this energy in. So there's this codex that's popping online for the feminine that is assisting us in kind of healing and dissolving out that energy that was kind of creating this canopy where we couldn't connect to and jump into our higher timeline sets. And it's opening up the chalice so that we can hold that cup up and receive that cup of love for ourselves, and to know that we deserve it, and dissolving out those guilt and shame traumas and all of those things that kind of kept us stuck before. And I know in my life, I've been having a lot of feedback loops. And, for those of you who may not follow the numerology that goes along with each year, this is the universal 8 year, which resonates to the star card and the strength. So this is a year where a lot of wish fulfillment is coming online. And for those of us who have been so weary, it's that renewal of faith and hope in those visions that the divine has given us. And so what we're having here is this huge shift and healing that's happening about our ability to receive that, especially, kind of collapsing out some of the illusions that we might still be holding on to, those residuals about ourselves that makes that star we can't kind of navigate because we can't find the star, right? And clearing that out. So for myself, I'm noticing that you know, a lot of new developments have happened in my life. So when we're talking about the star energy, I'm seeing it. It's like every month, it's like, oh my God, how did I get here? And now I'm here. And it's almost like, those things that I've been wanting to receive for so long, but have been held back in some way, shape, or form, are becoming more real and palpable. And I'm noticing that now that I'm starting to see this anchoring in physical reality, it's bringing up a lot of fear. Like, you know, I, I've been through the twin flame crazy thing. So it's like, being afraid, okay, well, what if this is this? Or, maybe I'm too old for this now, or maybe I'm just, whatever. A lot of those insecurities coming up, and it's part of that clearing out of the chalice and getting it ready to receive and give birth. And I
Yeah.
love what we were talking about yesterday, Polly, when we were when we were kind of working with the imagery of water, Cancer being that water element, and some of the downloads that I was receiving about that being like the amniotic fluid. And
Mhm.
it's, the waters were gestating these new lives within the water, within the sacred womb, which is our new self, our true self, and then the life that starts to reflect that in physical reality, through that law of correspondence that the 8 number brings, the universal 8 also brings. And so I'm noticing, as we midwife and as we go through this midwifery, It's bringing up a lot of energies that I feel are almost symbolically like those things that could cause you to miscarry. And
Yes.
I remember what you were saying about that before, when we were talking yesterday a little bit about that call, about you know especially as women and as empaths, which I'm sure your audience probably largely resonates with, being of taking on the problems of others and going into that inverted feminine energy that's so overgiving, and going into these martyr things, and we're trying to nurture everyone and pouring out that energy. And these things can cause us to leak out the very waters, the very energy, the very sacredness of the womb that needs to be contained, so that we could miscarry because our energies are all being drained in here and drained over there, and feeling like we have to just overcompensate. So we're finding that balance during
And
this season.
I'm so glad you use that like beautiful metaphor and analogy, because what I really want to emphasize to our listeners right now, because this is something that came up yesterday too, and you just expressed it so beautifully about the amniotic fluids and the waters. I don't know if you've noticed this with your clients, and even in your own journey. Myself, I've noticed it, that sometimes there's a bit of that shadow where we're on that light worker path, and we think, oh no, I've healed that, I'm not over giving.
Yeah.
I hear that so often. I've heard it from other like really established healers too, that, oh no, that's not me, I don't overgive. And I just smile, and I think,
Mhm.
well, I thought that too.
Mhm.
And then think it's very, and I feel it's very reassuring for our listeners today to remember to be compassionate with themselves if they are
Yes.
noticing those insecurities coming up, if they are noticing those fears, doubts, and hesitancies coming up, no matter how long they've been on this path of spiritual awakening, and they feel like, I've been there, bought that t-shirt, in my closet, I've mastered that. It's because, like you so beautifully framed everything, this is a rebirth. And one of the things that came up yesterday that is so important is that when we are physically birthing a child, right? People rally, right? Ideally, 99% of people rally, right? And
Mhm.
say, this is a woman who's pregnant. They allow for extra time, extra support, extra nourishment, extra reverence. And yet, when we're rebirthing ourselves, or we're birthing on new timelines, as we're talking about today, which could be dreams, stepping out of past pain loops, and all kinds of things, once and for all, like we're really ready. We were ready yesterday already to move on, and it's like, no, it's a hard, firm no, and it's a full body yes to, I don't know what's coming next, but anything's better than this, right?
Right.
And so it's like, that is where I think for the feminine collective right now,
Mhm.
it's an invitation to be extra mindful, because it can be such a slippery, seductive slope to kind of backslide and, like you're saying, drain our energy,
Mhm.
because you think, oh no, I'm not overgiving, because some of the shadows are, I feel a sense of purpose, I feel a sense of worth.
Yeah.
This is in alignment with who I am as a light worker, as someone who's a being of love and light. And in that from that well-intended space, there is still a little bit of shadow that needs to be cleared and unwound, because if at the end of the day we're feeling doubts and hesitations, insecurities, it's
Mhm.
because the energy, that extra energy that we really all require right now, is
Mhm.
being leached or fed or leaked out to other places and spaces and faces and people
Yes. Yes.
who actually would benefit from us being pregnant with possibility,
Right.
and allowing them to recognize, even if they can't consciously, explain it, but just sense, oh, something's a little different with her.
Mhm.
And then that's the catalyst for them to start to kind of recalibrate for themselves, and tap into their own inner resources. And again,
Mhm.
none of this is done from a place of anger, or, you know, that kind of declaration that sometimes we feel we need to make just so we can hear ourselves.
Yeah.
Go really strong and hard, and it's like pounding our fist on the table. No, we're not talking about that. We're just like that quiet claiming and just choosing from that place of inner conviction, right? And knowing that we deserve because we are. Like I deserve because I am. And that is enough. And to sit with any discomfort that brings up within us, let alone anyone around us. You see, I think we can get distracted by the discomfort we anticipate it's going to bring up in other people that we, anyways, I'm going on here, but yeah.
No, I totally get it. And it just, what kind of came up for me just, on the tails of what you were saying is that, I do sometimes on my YouTube channel, I'll do tarot readings on the YouTube channel, or oracle readings. And I've been doing a lot more oracle readings these days than previously. And the card that keeps coming up is, I have a deck, it's Say Yes to Yourself. And how spirit always gives me that message. And it's so funny because on the card, it's actually a deck I created myself. I just, created it to kind of, play with a little bit. But in it, there's a woman holding up and her arms are up, almost like she's looking like an actual chalice. And every time that card appears, it always comes with this message kind of affixed to it from spirit that even in saying yes to yourself, it's not maybe you saying yes to yourself, but sometimes in saying yes to yourself, you're saying no to something or someone else. And this is the way we kind of contain our energy, because we do need to understand that with the lunar nodes, we're pulling out of the South Node in Libra. So as a result, a lot of contracts are closing out, even those who consider themselves to be indigos, and a lot of light worker contracts are being renegotiated, and contracts in our relationships are being renegotiated because we've raised our vibration, and many of us are actually on the new timeline. It's not a someday thing. We're on it now, but we're just anchoring so that we can kind of fine tune things and have things kind of collapse out. And so with this is coming an entirely new life. This is, based on, a lot of, like you were saying, the dreams, the visions we've had for so long, those things that we've known in our heart that the divine has for us, but for some reason, we just could not push it out. And now we're at the place where we're pushing it out. And, it's almost like when a woman is in labor giving birth, and she goes into the labor and delivery room, she's going to be very discerning about who she has in there, and she may not want Uncle Ted in there with the video camera, but the husband can come in and the grandparents and that kind of thing. And it's the same kind of thing. And so there's a lot of feedback that's happening through our relationships that are showing us where our boundaries might still be leaky, where we might be saying yes when we really mean no, and we self-abandon, because all of those things are ways that are, we talk about leaky energy. That's where the energy leaks, and that's where the water leaks. And interestingly enough, I know I told you when my equipment was acting wonky that we were in Mercury retrograde. Actually, I was looking at the wrong year, but when I looked again, we are in the pre-shadow, and it's not in Cancer, it's in Virgo. And interestingly enough, the archetypal energy for Virgo is the hermit. But it's an energy of service, though. Virgo is the servant. So there is an element of moving into service that requires you to move out of the space to master your craft. And so we have Mercury retrograde also revving up too, to assist in perfecting us in this process of honoring our boundaries. It's actually going all the way from the first decan of Virgo, which is the 8 of Pentacles. That's mastering your craft. That's perfection. For many of us, it is a perfection that's inward, as far as perfecting ourselves in love, so that we can be that chalice without leaking stuff out because I don't deserve it and I'm ashamed and blah, 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 and all these spaces we go to. And it's going all the way back to the last decan of Leo, which is the 7 of Wands. And that is the ability for us to kind of defend ourselves, if you will, against all of these other energies that might be trying to put us back in some default.
I love that. And forgive me, I just want to jump in here for a second, because when you were sharing all of that, I just had this little activation as you were sharing that I just want to put out on the table, that because I feel it's helpful for so many, that, I think the shadow side of the giving, doting, nurturing feminine energy. Again, that's beautifully and well intended and has its place. And the shadow side of it is, like you said, it can be like the wanting to make something happen from that. I think the question to unwind in ourselves is to notice, be really honest with ourselves. Am I taking this yes because I'm afraid that if I don't, I will lose not even the other person so much. I think sometimes we have this hidden fear underneath the layers that I'm going to lose my sense of myself, and I'm going to possibly slide even into self-judgment, that I'm a bitch, as opposed to this being of love and light, who is caring and empathetic and considerate and all this kind of stuff. And so one of the words I kept hearing as you're speaking is retreat, when you talked about the hermit, that actually that trust in the divine feminine, that she will be experiencing devotion. And even if the devotion at first may not be from people that she's been supporting outwardly, because they may have noticed a shift and that might, trigger stuff in them, to trust that the divine itself, the universe itself, has provision and will provide for her, and that it's safe to retreat, that she is enough, that just by being back, and that actually opens the chalice to receive more of that abundance. And so that's just something that came through, and I felt that when you were talking about it, because it's something even I've been experiencing right now too. Like the old part of me, a lot of awareness has come up where I would take decisions and I kind of glossed over the fact, I didn't want to see it, that I was doing out of fear of loss. And when you talked about also like the new timeline, like we're actually on it now. I hope everyone heard you say that, because so many of us are like, oh, one day when I'm on that timeline, or I'm going to live from the end. No, this is the end. Like you are on that timeline, and and if you're still straddling, that's the illusion.
Yes, there you go. Yeah.
So it's like, imagine you're driving down here. I saw this image in my mind. Imagine you're driving down the street and you're turning right because that's your timeline, but you're grabbing for the lamppost that's on the left-hand side. It's like,
yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that brings us to the upcoming full moon, which is next weekend, where that happens. You have the sun in the last decan of Cancer and the moon in the last decan of Capricorn. And that's the Four of Cups and the Four of Pentacles. And one of the downloads that came into me that we will be seeing and healing and releasing, that will also shift our magnetism and our receptivity set points, is that it's going to show us where the divine is handing us that cup, because that's what the Four of Cups looks like. It's somebody being handed a cup and they're just looking in the other direction. So there is a bit of a course correct that is coming in. And I think, you're hitting it right on the head as far as those of us who are nurturers, whether we're light workers, healers, life coaches, therapists, moms, whatever, of being in that space of not being able to say no or articulate our needs because of some fear of loss or some other thing going on. And what is really purifying and dissolving out, and this is where that emotional energy, the emotional body that comes in with Cancer, the healing waters, it's alchemy dissolving, is around people pleasing. Because a lot of us have learned that in childhood, we, for whatever reason, most of us as empaths, light workers, earth angels, whatever your label is, we have childhoods where we learned to suppress who we really are in favor for this larger than life alcoholic dad or whatever it was. So we learned how to make ourselves disappear in order to receive love.
And to feel safe. And to feel safe.
Right? Yes.
So it's, I just want to say, so it's wired into our nervous system. Sorry. Yeah. I just wanted to emphasize that.
It totally is. Yeah. It's wired into our nervous system. It's running through our subconscious files. And it's almost like a malware that is, we're receiving this upgrade, right? This factory reset. And as this process happens, I'm saying this because I'm talking about my laptop. So we're in this place where a lot of us are having a lot of that being pulled out, because through the Libra South Node, we're also pulling our energy out of karmic ways. And I remember we had a conversation a few calls back that karmic is not necessarily past life and what happened in your other lifetimes. It's just the old stuff that keeps you anchored in the old stuff. And so we're having this upgrade through our relationships that are assisting us in leaving those old karmic patterns so that we can get up into that new beginning. And this is happening through the mirror in our relationships quite a bit. Just another example I want to use in my personal life. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I've been homeschooling her basically since she was born. And I noticed, like, maybe the last couple of months, she's not listening so much, and I'm getting frustrated and sit down and we're going to do this. And, just getting, kind of cross with her when she wasn't feeling it. And it took for me to be honest with myself to see that I'm not feeling it. And, there are some fears that I have that sending her off to public school is going to put her in these different spaces. And of course, there's a lot of things that they are teaching in government schools that, I'm not really necessarily on board with. And I know a lot of your audience probably feels the same way, but it caused me to look at those fears. And the divine said to me, how do you know she's not being sent to make a difference? And you're keeping her from your purpose because, you're just afraid to just let it go and just shift into the new timeline. And so, she's been in camp the last couple of weeks and not home all day. And I've just noticed how much more time I'm able to spend on me. I've been back in my belly dance and out in nature without having her there. And mommy, look at this and that and that. And I've been able to really meditate and be out there. And I see how in letting go of the need to be filling a cup. And in her case, she didn't even want the cup to be filled. She wants to go to school. It's funny, Holly, she wants to go to school because she wants a school lunch tray. And I'm like, well, I think you're going to be doing more than that. But, and just to see the shift and just letting her go off into what's calling her because her purpose involves that, and me allowing myself to have by saying no to that fearful energy that I'm projecting on her. If I send her to public school, what's going to happen and and blah, blah, blah. And I see how in filling that cup in, it's bringing in all of these downloads and blessings and new stuff that's coming in by saying yes to me. But I had to say no, not to my daughter necessarily, but to this thing I was trying to force out of fear.
Yes, and she's also given you a gift too, right? This is the on the other side of that fear. I've been experiencing it here too with a good friend of some spaciousness that and I could feel like a little bit betwixt and between, like I wanted to come here. I'm in Mexico right now, different backdrop.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling a strong call to be on this island here in Cozumel because of the sacred feminine energy, because of my devotion to the goddess Ishel, who's the fertility goddess here. And that recognition that a lot of fear, a lot of insecurity came up. And at the same time, noticing it and then realizing that saying just no to it inside, like acknowledging it, but just not taking it on as if it's the truth of who I am.
Yes,
in that sense, like that capacity to notice that I'm able to witness it. So if I'm witnessing it, I'm not it,
Yes,
it just,
yes,
it
yes.
is, it's not, I'm not it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so how am I going to be with it is? And when I just, and the way to be with it is to experience the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
and it's uncomfortable. And I feel like sometimes when we're busy filling other people's cups, I've been there many times myself as a high school teacher during the year, I'm filling 90 cups a day, and then carrying, a lot of cups. And then my mom's, cup when I was caring for her for 3 months when she was bedridden after her car accident. So it was like, I knew consciously I also was doing things to fill my cup. However, it kind of, I noticed, has this like momentum that builds. I don't want to say it's an addiction, but maybe it is. I hope not. But there is this compulsiveness sometimes if we're really honest with ourselves, and because the only way to move through and beyond it is to get really real with ourselves.
Yeah.
Is that's why I'm being super transparent here. And I know you are too. And it's just like, that is a distraction from saying, like, just being with what is and dancing with what is. And so when other people on their own soul journeys and allowing them to make their choices. I know as a parent, you offer provision and guidance. That's, you know, there is that. And at the same time too, also trusting, you know, that your daughter's choice, and in my case, my friend's choice, actually on the other side of it was like the spaciousness to like, there's now this space to be back in my own energy with it, and knowing that we know that other people are off doing what they want to be doing, feeling, you know, happy with that and complete with that. And I'm like, I can see clearly now on the other side of it how much that was fear dressed up as other things, you know.
Yeah.
That, and they're offer in those moments when we can just let go of anything inside of us that would seek to distract us from the truth of who we are, and that is our control issues, our need to, you know, feel responsible for things that maybe in the end, you know, are best left, you know, open to other people's, you know, soul decisions. And because they actually do honor ours, like they're trying to honor us, you know, like, and it's just like, this is where we can get in our own way, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I really love how you worded that. And back to what you were saying earlier when you were talking, what was coming to mind when you're talking about how we don't engage with it, we go into that neutral witness space. It reminds me of an analogy that you brought up on one of our previous calls where it's almost like, or maybe we were just talking, I don't remember if it was on the call, but it's like when you're in line at the supermarket and you see the tabloids and you just you see the headlines and you're like, okay, I'm not going to read that. You see it, you just witness it, but you're not going to engage with it. And it really is important for us to do that as we're open. You know, it's almost like, you know, as we move through the solar transit in Cancer, and I mean, we don't have a whole lot of time left in Cancer, maybe a week and a few days, but you know, it is the key phrase for Cancer is I feel. And, you know, there is that old adage that you do have to feel it to heal it, but it's, you know, there's a big difference between feeling it in that neutral witness place rather than identifying it and, you know, building, you know, a structure around it that it somehow defines you. I think that really helps us to be able to release it, because I did have to face some of my own fears with my daughter, and not just even my younger daughter. I'm noticing both my daughters are giving me a lot of feedback stuff. And I don't mind sharing that I do have an older daughter from a previous relationship who's in her 20s, who is really struggling with addiction. And, you know, there's a whole lot of drama happening last week and last weekend with her. And I'm just trying to get roped in, and me getting into that place where I'm starting to try to preach to her and you need to do this and go da da, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I did have to stop myself because I realized I'd been doing that for years, because this has been an ongoing problem. And I had to remind myself that you know, it looks scary, you know, and you know, for mom, of course it is, but, you know, this is part of her journey, and this is part of the decisions and even the consequences that she's dealing with for actions that she took, and where that's taking her in terms of lessons and growth and expansion. And I can't do anything about that there. So let me just hold that space of love for her and compassion, and stop projecting this fear of, you know, if I don't do something or say something, all of this stuff is going to happen. I mean, it reminds me, even when I was a teenager, you know, I was kind of a wild teenager and put my mom through hell. And she was doing the same thing. She was like, you need to do this and blah, blah, blah. And just, you know how moms are when you're a teenager. And the more that she was nagging at me about stuff, the more I did it. But I noticed one day she started to get silent. You know, I would sneak out, and, you know, she'd know I was sneaking out at 11 midnight, you know, to go meet some guy I had no business even talking to. And she didn't say anything. She just stopped talking about it altogether. And interestingly enough, about maybe 3 to 4 months later, I just stopped. I just stopped everything I was doing. So it was just interesting. I think about that sometimes and how interesting that was, just, you know, with our relationship. But yeah.
I love that you shared that. I think that, and thank you so much for being so open and vulnerable and transparent with all of us here today, because those are the real lessons. And and it was, as you were talking about it too, there's just something I feel like I just want to bring up to the surface and discern. It's that difference. I think when we're talking about the divine feminine, like there's feminine energy and it's in all of us, regardless of gender. When we get too much into our heads and we're trying to figure it out and plan it out, we're kind of shifting more into a masculine energy, right? And
Mhm.
I've been there many times myself because I've got to plan the whole school year. I'm in my masculine energy. I'm in my provision energy when I'm teaching.
Mhm.
And so it can become very habitual. I can be very used to doing that. And so I really crave being in my feminine energy. And at the same time, being in my feminine energy, really, as I understand it at this point in my journey, is about connecting to my feelings and my
Yes.
sensations in my body, using my body as a compass, as a pendulum, and
Mhm.
honoring it, even if it's like, not the best timing,
Mhm. Mhm.
which can be really tricky in, say, I'm standing up in front of 90 students and all of a sudden there's something wanting to come up and it's like, I can't burst into tears in front of 90 students. So what do I
Yeah.
do? I suppress it, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think this is where a lot of women in particular, because it's a lot of women watch this show,
Mhm.
um, can find themselves. And so then we get into this pattern of suppressing our feelings and emotions. And when they've been packed in there fairly tightly, there's a
Mhm.
lot that can come up to the surface. Like I know my first week here relaxing after a very full start to the year, I
Mhm.
was crying and I didn't even know why. But because I had that setting in my mind that I needed to figure it out,
Mhm. Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know, it was kicking in, and I know better than that, but it was a default setting, right? That I need to
Mhm.
figure out why I'm upset. And I'm like, no, I don't. I can just let the tears come. There I was on the beach and I was like wanting to burst into tears. I'm like, this is so illogical, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, how could I be in Cozumel, Mexico on the beach wanting to cry? Like,
Yeah.
that's just crazy making, right?
Yeah.
However, I just stopped. I noticed the part of me that wanted to judge myself, that wanted to go into all those weird places. And it was like you said, we have feedback loops even within ourselves, which I think
Mhm.
was such a beautiful, important discernment. I haven't heard anybody else make that discernment before. We're always talking about feedback loops from people and places outside of us, but what about our
Mhm.
own feedback loops? And,
Right.
and so the other piece I just wanted to toss in there is that, so when we talk about, feeling our feelings, and you're talking about like not identifying with them, which is so important too. I think
Mhm.
what can happen is that when we open Pandora's box, right, because they've been suppressed, because we've been in
Yeah.
our masculine energy, and all of a sudden it comes up at it, like we can barely hold back the floodgates. We're lying on the beach and the tears are like rolling down. We're pretending we're sweating,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
from our
Mhm.
eyeballs. And it's like, then it can be easy to go into that place where we identify with the emotions, we make up stories about ourselves, then
Yep.
more thoughts come up and we swing back and forth between the emotional, then we go to the spiritual if we're on the awakening journey, and it
Mhm.
gives us temporary relief.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
we swing back to the mental and up to the emotional. And we never kind of do the full, 360 back, bringing the spiritual back into the embodied witness that's neutral. And
Yes.
and so that's part of what we're talking about today. This creative midwifing is holding the container by strengthening our energy, by honoring all of it without judgment and with compassion, so that as we move through the wonkiness of it all,
Mhm.
we are honoring we need extra rest, extra sleep, extra nourishment, extra solitude, extra whatever it is, and to sort of unhook our energy from all the other spaces and places that our mind is telling us, oh, I need to be over there worrying about this person, thinking about that,
Mhm.
so that we can just, because otherwise I think we go into that very, what people call the toxic feminine,
Mhm.
where we go into victim or martyr.
Yeah, yeah. I've done that too, complaining, well, I'm doing all this for everybody and blah, blah, blah. Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not doing anything for me. When's it my turn? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I love what you said too, because I mean, I think this is the thing that makes this Cancerian season so powerful for the divine feminine. And in an 8 year, when we're talking about star energy, I feel it's more relevant now than it has been in recent years. Is that I remember I had a dear mentor who told me for we talk awakening, I use the term ascension, but it is that shift that we're all going through, that the key to ascension, most of it is about 80% emotional body healing, because it is the emotions. When we talk about the star energy and navigating that star, it is largely our emotions that assist us in navigating our lives. In that, when I say that is If somebody's making you angry, it's that feeling is coming up because your boundaries are being violated, or whatever it is, feeling bored might be time for you to make a course correct and stuff like that. And again, for many of us, part of the healing that we're all doing at this time is really learning how to trust what we're feeling, or in some cases even know what we're feeling. Because I don't know about you, but I grew up in a household where you just don't talk about that, nobody cares. And then you get that imprint that nobody cares about how I feel, so I'll just stop caring, and you inner parent yourself like that. So a lot of these emotions and feelings are coming up, whether they're being triggered within the self, or if it might be something you're seeing in a mirror in a relationship that's triggering it. It's coming up because it is causing us to sort of come back alive from the numbness that many of us have felt, coming
Yeah.
from our toxic childhood experiences and relationships and this type of thing, so that we can really start to feel alive again, and start to really clear out the pain body, which is connected to our emotional body in our aura. And really it is that pain body that also holds us back, because what happens when we try to move forward is we feel the feelings from another time when things didn't quite work out that way, whether in this lifetime or another. And trying to escape feeling like that again, we sabotage ourselves, or we stop, or we start lying to ourselves, or we get into addictions, or we shut down in some way that keeps us from taking that next step. Interestingly enough, it's like all these like astrology fun facts here. Cancer, its archetypal energy in the tarot is the Chariot, and I was blown away when I found that out, because Cancer is so gentle and watery, and Chariot is so forceful, But it is that connecting to our emotions and working through them and feeling it to heal it, that assists us in that forward movement, that pushing out of that baby. And for us, it is the new, might be new career, new this, new that, whatever it is. But ultimately, what it is us birthing ourselves anew as we leave behind those remnants of our false self and those constructs, into the purity of the resonance, the energetic resonance we need to have for this next phase of our journey. And this is all in major recalibration right now.
Yeah, it's, I love how you shared all of that, because that point about the emotional body is really key. Because if you think about even young children, right, under the age of 8, they're precognitive. How do we navigate the world? And it's partly because we do have a body, right? Our nervous system, right? I know it's the brain, body kind of connection, but the interface is the emotions, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the neurochemicals, right, that flood us, and the cortisol, the adrenaline, the dopamine, the
Yeah,
serotonin.
and it all works together. It's just,
Yeah.
just a very intricate system that's interdependent. And, when one system is down, it can kind of throw things off, whether physically or mentally, or whatever, energetically, or whatever it is.
And that's where I think too, where that escapism, either through spirituality or through addiction,
Mm-hmm.
or through just overthinking, even, can be a form of compulsive behavior, where we avoid being in the body because of the pain body, right? And yet, as you were speaking about the Chariot, I thought about, that's the Merkaba vehicle. That's like
Yeah.
that's our little space car. That's a little like Jetson vehicle. I used to love the Jetsons as a child. I
Yeah,
love
me
that.
too. Me too.
And I was like, oh, why do I like that so much? And it's like, that's the, when I joke about with traffic in Toronto, having a helicopter would be great. Well, we do have one. We have, and even being able to, to have a sense of, lightness of being while in a human form, right? It's, it's when lately I've had the sensation. I remember years ago I had a reading with a beloved teacher that she talked about, take off the heavy coat. And I haven't had that sensation of the heavy coat, like that metaphor, come back into my field of awareness in a very long time, because I was going through a really traumatic situation back years ago when I had that reading. And it's interesting because lately in this month, like in the past couple of weeks here in the Cancerian energies, that metaphor, that archetype has been kind of coming back up again, the heavy coat. Do you think other people, have you noticed that with clients, or just in your own experience, the sense of like a heavy coat that, people are, maybe they they lost touch with, because again, so many of us lead busy lives, and we send our energy out with good intentions, and we're excited by a lot of things, and then over time, what we're not noticing can build up almost like a plaque, like, or a heavy coat.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's in moments like these where we're in a heightened feeling, invitation. Because, for example, one friend who messaged me the other day, and she said, I don't know, I can't put a finger on it, but something feels off. I feel uneasy about something.
Mm-hmm.
I also had another friend when I was sharing at the beginning of the month that I was feeling uneasy about something, and I got a really strong reaction saying, I'm not here to caretake your emotions. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I've also noticed in the feminine collective is that, and there's no judgment in this, but we're all at different stages of healing that pain body. And just
Right.
because by virtue of identifying with being female, this feminine energy goes beyond that, because I've
Yeah.
also known men who identify as the male gender, who are in touch with they have more of a healed feminine energy in them.
Mm-hmm.
And they will be able to ask you about your feelings or be empathetic. Whereas I've also noticed there are some women in my journey who are wonderful souls,
Mm-hmm.
but there's like a defense mode, or they don't want to go there and do feelings. And I hold compassion, because I know at one point earlier on in my own journey, I remember sitting with a therapist as I was moving through the dissolution of my first marriage, and she asked me how I felt, and I told her what I thought, and she said, "That's not a
Yeah.
feeling."
Yeah.
And I immediately
I've had that with clients many times. They could not articulate how they felt at all. I've seen that many, many times. And it's something that I struggle with as well, because like I said, when I grew up, nobody cared what you felt, we don't want to hear it, so, so I totally get it. And it's almost like, and this is, also, I think a feature of Cancer season, of course, it's about the mother, but I think, it's about the home, family, your roots. It is a time where we could really benefit from learning how to reparent our inner child. And even if emotions come up, if we can take the time to just move into a space of stillness where we can go into that and ask, what do you want? What can I do for you? And without judgment. I know one of the things that I really struggled with when I started my journey is that when emotional stuff did come up, I would beat it back down with a stick instead of just going in there, or I would criticize myself for it. And this is where spiritual bypassing comes in, and it's really rampant in the spiritual community, where it's just about positive thinking. And if you go into any space that's angry or whatever, that's low vibing. But no, I feel like all of our emotions carry some kind of alchemy and some kind of message that is assisting us in navigating to embody at the highest levels if we'll follow the trail of breadcrumbs. Like anger, I find, they talk about fiery anger. And fire is a transmuter. And I've actually had really kind of nasty arguments with people, but that once the air cleared, our relationship was closer because the fire transmuted it. It's just when it becomes destructive and starts to, push you to do things harmful to yourself or others, that it becomes, wrong, or whatever, or bad, or whatever. But I think that this is a good time to learn how to reparent ourselves and our inner child by, when even an uncomfortable emotion comes up, to just be with it, as just like you would do with a child that you really loved and wanted to see them live in their purpose and their best life. Well, I understand you're feeling that way. I hear you. I get it. What do you want to do with this? And just start, following that train of thought. You'll be surprised how clearer you feel, just as you release that, and it opens up so much in your womb space because it's also connected. A lot of us were not able to really truly give birth because, it was just like I was saying yesterday, excuse me guys if I sound a little crude, but we have this inner abortionist, that's going in and, going in with the instruments and just, pulling that energy out before we can move anywhere. And it creates this stagnancy in the waters in our own womb space. So I really do feel that a lot of us are going into this place where we're needing to kind of relearn how to inner parent our inner child and just be comfortable with feeling. And unfortunately, we do live in a culture where the feeling realm is discouraged. and it's more logical and, using your head and navigating this way. But as we return, as the Sophianic Christ energy, as it expands in our own fields, we're finding that we're having that ability with our light body to expand through connecting to our emotions, releasing the negative emotions that may come from past experiences, and realizing that those don't define us and they don't tell us who we are, and they're just, the result of, this cause and effect that happened. We can start to expand in our light body the ability to hold higher states of joy.
And
And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just going on
no,
and on.
no, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I hope I didn't cut you off. I
Oh,
just,
no, no,
you said something that also activated for me, was something there too that I want to pull out for our listeners today. And that is, I just had this aha moment, and it was around time. When you said time, because we're all experiencing time in different ways now. A lot of people talk about time speeding up, and I feel like the Sophianic essence is actually introducing, because we're talking about timelines today too, right?
no.
It takes time. I mean, time is a teaching tool, as we both know. It doesn't really exist. Everything's happening all at once. Everything everywhere all at once, or something like that, as the movie says. But it's like our experience of time is going to shift as the Sophianic essence, expands on the planet, because it does take time to be present with our emotions. And when I say time, it brings us, the feminine is in the present moment. It's not in the
Yes.
past, and it's not in the future, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
in the present moment. And so that eternal now, that presence, that being here now, that stretch and dance, when I did ballroom for many years, stretching out the time frame, right? So you get the fullness of the movement, right? Rather than just mimicking the look of the movement, right? So it's like, rather than just going through the motions in the present moment instead of zombie autopilot mode, it's like really being present to ourselves, keeping that connection, not just when we're on the meditation pillow, or when we have a break, and even if we go for a walk, we're not just ruminating in our minds, but we're checking into our whole bodily system, our emotions, our feelings, our sensations. And it's then bringing that experience out into the world with our children, with our colleagues, with our partners, with our friends, with our family, with the stranger on the street, being able to look them in the eye, the cashier at the grocery checkout, and not just being, this, and a disembodied, like entity, right? And so, but I think because we've bought into such a logical, rational, hyper speed AI kind of world, faster is better. But this is where the mental health crisis is coming in, because it's so fast that we're addicted to fast. Faster is better, that we're so ungrounded and so disconnected. I'm speaking my heart. Next time I'll tell you what I really feel and what I really think.
We'll just dissolve it out. Dissolve it on out.
Spontaneous combustion. We're just going to be little piles of ash, and then the robots will take over. No, just kidding. But I'm just joking.
You might not be that far off, obviously.
Maybe that's the plan. I don't know, but I don't want to sign up for that plan. Anyways, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's something in what you said about, our experience of time. We have the sacred invitation before us, to really renegotiate with our perception of time and what that is like. And that shifts our values too. Like, do you mind if I share one little quick anecdote?
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah. with my nephew, when he was quite young, he's a teenager now. And I don't know if I've shared this anecdote before, but I still go back to it because he was my teacher in the moment. We were at my brother and his wife's new place, and we were getting a tour of it. And my brother has a workroom, and he had his own little toy, tools, but he fell in love with my brother's orange mallet that he uses to build bikes. And he was inconsolable. Like, all the adults went back upstairs, and it was way too heavy for him to pick up because he was like 2 years old. And I just saw him. He was just having a temper tantrum. He was inconsolable, and that wasn't usually his usual mode of operation. So I got down on his level, and I said to him, "You really love Daddy's hammer." And he was like, And I'm like, you really want it. And you're really upset that you can't have it. Yeah. And I said, let's sing a song about how much you want daddy's hammer. So he got his little toy piano out. And you're like, okay, I don't know. I just made it up on the fly. Daddy's hammer is the best of all the rest. None stands the test or whatever. Like, just like winged it. And I said, okay, that was a warm up. Let's do it again. This time, like you feel it, like you really feel it. And we just went over and over again. And then finally at a certain point, I looked at him and I said, that was so much fun. You know what? That feels really like, I feel like I got it out. You can keep playing this song as many times as you need. I want to go play with that toy over there. And when you're ready, come join me, and he kind of just, I'll never forget the look on his face. He just looked at me, like he just stared at me. Like he was like, what just happened here? And then he sat there for a few moments and then he gradually, quietly came over and started playing with me. And I thought, now that took time, that took energy, that putting my agenda and whatever else I needed to do on pause. But he gave me such a gift in that moment. I will always have that moment in my heart. And I want to create more moments like that. And I realize that some of the sources of sadness in my life have been the moments where I was brusque, the moments where I could have shown up more and I missed the gift in the moment because I was rushing, because something was urgent, my mind convinced me otherwise that I didn't have time for this. And you feel it in your body, and yet you override it with your head so easily, and you can't get those moments back again.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said. And it's so funny. I was talking to someone the other day about my daughter. My daughter is actually, my older one's going to be 30 on Lionsgate on 8/8. And I was thinking about, where I was in my headspace when I was raising her and how quickly it all went by. And I spent so much of, raising her just engaged with drama with her dad and chasing this and chasing that and thinking this is important. And, let me get back in school and do all this stuff and blah, 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 blah. And I'm not saying that, because, I was present for her a lot, but I do see that my mind was so in these other spaces that I wasn't being in the moment and being present with her, which is a complete 180 from how I am with my daughter now. Now that I'm much more mature and I kind of feel like I've prioritized differently. So it's so true. And it's like the time just flew by and I'm like, oh my God, I have this 30-year-old. Where did all of this go? And, just being, just so amazed by how time seems to be accelerating and just going by so fast, but it is that illusion. And I do believe the reason why it's going so fast is that as we shift in our consciousness and as we rise up in our, our ascended energies and in our avatar selves, that we're operating outside, we're operating with our higher dimensional sets of consciousness, which are outside of time. So, even though time is going by just the same as it always has in 3D, we're operating from higher states that work outside of that make it seem more fluid. So for whatever that's worth.
I love that you shared that. And it's interesting right here on the island. It's also like when we're present, a lot of us already know this, you feel connected to your intuition more, you feel grounded in your body. You're able, when we're responsive to ourselves, when we be responsive to other people. And what I love about being on this island, I've been coming here now for over 20 years. I've, just felt such a connection. Like there's such a different vibration here, different frequency, and just love being in nature. And of course the goddess of this island. And yet something was calling me here this summer, even though when I first got here, it was Hurricane Beryl was barreling on through, so I walked through a lot of fear because I'm not used to hurricanes from where I come from. I've been through one small one before down here, but this was supposed to be a little bit bigger, right? And the interesting thing is that was even in itself a great exercise. And then on the other side of that, what I discovered is that there is this amazing festival happening here next weekend. And the Mayan Abuelas are going to be here. They're going to be here. And I just kept getting this message in my body. Like, I really need to be here. I don't know exactly, in what capacity or what I'm going to be participating in or what I'm going to be, focusing on when I'm here exactly. But there's just sort of this healing that the island has a lot of feminine energy, and it's become more masculine over time, and it's about rebalancing so that there's the balance of both, that sacred union of both, even for the spirit of place here. And when I heard the abuelos are going to be here, and it's interesting because the festival itself, I love what their vision is. It's a balance of, let me see if I get this all right, it's wellness and athletics, arts and culture, family, and earth and sustainability. So that's, and it's over several days, and it's ceremony, it's all kinds of different things, and it's their first year doing it. It's so I'm excited to see what it's about. And so I just share this because I feel like as we embrace the Sophianic essence in us and that's emerging on the planet, it's going to shift how we show up for each other and what we co-create together, and even our value system. And it's going to be the much needed like counterbalance to where the mind will take us in the world. I don't really watch the news too much anymore, but you know what I'm talking about, like that place where we can go into a lot of fear and anxiety and drama and trauma.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because when we're operating from our high feminine energy, especially after we've filled our own cups and we're comfortable with that and comfortable with, receiving love and releasing all of these places where we might have felt unworthy, we show up with so much more. I mean, it's really literally like, you fill your own cup first. It literally is that we have that energy to nourish, to nurture, and to bring caring and to bring empathy and compassion back to the collective, after first anchoring that within the self, having it for the self, and integrating it within the self. My laptop's about to die, so I'm going to just go put it on the charger real quick. Hold on.
Okay, no
I
problem.
forgot to plug it in when we started.
No problem. Go ahead and do that. Well, while Sonja's doing that, I just want to share that if anyone has been, really looking for a way to connect with their sacred feminine energy, to restore the sacred to their self-care, I do have a number of offerings that are there to support you. I have a Creating Calm in a Crazy World by Balancing Your Chakras online program that is a self-guided program with morning and evening meditations and guided journeys and subconscious reprogramming and healing. And so for more information, the link is going to be below this video and you can check it out. And I know also Sonja has amazing offerings with intuitive sessions and programs that are wonderful too. So I just did a little infomercial here. Offerings, just because I feel like right now it's important for women to look for the things that will support them and to say yes to that for themselves and not postpone it. Like if you're really resonating with anything that we've been sharing today, and after the call, you're looking for how can I actually in my own life continue to nourish and support this energy, create even like a sacred space and in my home. Both of us have offerings that can help you from free to programs, and we both have audios that are healing audios that are modestly priced. So check out Earth Angel Academy, 144.org. Check out PollyannaBlanco.com. And we're back to the show. And this show, I feel like there's just been so much we've wanted to share and talk about. And, I'm just honoring the flow of it because we're talking about the divine feminine. So there's no time frame here. Exactly. It's just all going to be shared until it feels complete. Is there anything else that you feel really guided to share with our viewers today? Maybe I'm sort of feeling, I know you mentioned the full moon earlier, but the full moon coming up this week, how would you suggest that we best, receive the blessings of this coming full moon? Like, do you have any guidance around that?
I do. And I do feel that, because all of these celestial occurrences, they kind of create these trends, what I like to call trends in the field. And I do feel that what's going to happen organically for so many on this path is you're going to, because the full moon brings in illumination, it brings in those things that we didn't see that were kind of hidden in, below the surface or whatever. And I do feel that around this time, there's going to be a lot of illumination, a lot of ahas, a lot of downloads coming in, a lot of realizations coming in, that will assist you in seeing where you might be blocked or holding back from seeing, or being blocked, blinded, whatever it is, from seeing the cup that's being offered to you. Because it's like I was saying, the sun in the Four of Cups, that's kind of boredom, stagnation, where your energy is not fluid or moving, where you're not seeing that cup that the divine is handing you. And and this is on the opposite. We have this in the Capricorn energy. The Capricorn archetype is the devil archetype. So we're looking at those places and spaces where we're kind of in bondage or locked down, whether it's a karmic entanglement or whether it's a karmic entanglement within the self, as far as a belief or a program, where we're having the opportunity to heal at those two polarities so that they can unify. And then we can start going into the Leo, really right into the Lion's Gate, where there's so much upgrade and shift and DNA activation and a lot of this stuff that's going to be coming online. So I do feel that setting the intention right now to maybe receive and allow yourself to see wherever you might be missing an opportunity, wherever you're feeling bored or stuck, to see what's holding on to you, or what are you holding on to. Is it some kind of stubborn belief pattern? Is it some kind of whatever it is. I do also want to say too, because this is also coming in, that Four of Pentacles, I wish I had the cards. I would hold them up for those who are not familiar with the tarot so you could see the imagery, but you can always Google it and look up the Four of Pentacles. It's a figure that's holding a pentacle and they're clutching it tight to their chest. And the energy behind this is kind of like being a miser. And I do feel too that there is another, I don't want to say warning, but another message running parallel to that, where it's very important for us to be a little stingy with our energy, so that those clouds can clear, so that we can see the next step. Because I am feeling that there are some very powerful steps that are coming in, that are taking us into these next opening of these choice points on the new timeline. And it's very important for us to kind of hold back our energy, kind of hold on, kind of move in more, maybe into that hermit space, spending more time in nature, in meditation and stillness, so that we can get whatever that information is that's coming in for us, that will assist us in shifting, and then going into Leo season, going right into this new creative energy as well.
Oh, I love that. I think that's it. So that way we don't miss the bus, right?
Exactly. It is. It's really about showing up for all of your good. It's about getting that instruction
Yeah.
set and really being able to trust it. And I think that this is where many of us are still coming online or healing, is being able to trust what we're feeling. And it's really parallel with trusting your intuition too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's true, because if we're distracted by all the outer things, or in that loop, saying I'm too busy, I'll do it later, I'm too tired, I'm either too busy or too tired. I'm so busy that now that I have time, I'm too tired to give myself time, and watch, rinse, repeat, recycle.
I can relate to that.
Yeah. And I know, I have compassion for it, because here I am now, finally more on, I'm not teaching full time right now. So yeah, it's easier for me to say that during the year, it's a full roster. So, I have compassion, and yet what a difference I notice when I can slow down, because there's less anxiety, less, trepidation, less mental, interference, because the slowing down is where you can feel that attunement to the moment, and to yourself in the moment, and to your spirit, your heart, your soul, and read the cues, read the breadcrumbs more clearly. When we're busy and we're ungrounded and we're lost in overthinking, it's so much more difficult. And so I think, if for anyone's experiencing any sort of when people are feeling like they're really done with something, and they're worried, going into that pattern of worrying that, oh, will it happen again? What you're telling everyone right now, and this is the cherry on top, is stop, just notice the worrying, and go in, ask yourself where it is in the body that the worry is, and worry, just move that energy, like you were talking about the belly dance, I know you also have chakra dance like me, just move the energy or be out in nature or go for a walk, not to distract yourself though. That's the key. Not
Yes,
to
absolutely.
to just be with the uneasiness, be with the worry without trying to change it, fix it, make it go away. And it will dissipate. That's the trust that the emotional energy will, it's not going to be there forever. And so the key is to be as present with it as possible without making up a story about it, without identifying with being it, just knowing that it's there to show you, it's actually there just to help you to slow down, if nothing else, right? And yet we can avoid it so much. And so I want to thank you for everything that you shared today. It's been amazing. I love our conversations.
I do too, both on and off camera.
Yes. And stay tuned, everyone. There's a lot birthing, the co-birthing that we're midwifing together. So stay tuned for more upcoming announcements leading up to the fall, because there's more. We're linking arms, and there's more wonderful soul support to come, because we are better together.
Yes.
Well, everyone, I wish you a wonderful week as we move into these full moon energies. And again, take what resonates, and, keep trusting yourself and keep honoring your journey and being present to it, and wishing you infinite creative blessings and infinite creative abundance. Lots of love and light. Be well.